these tools and capabilities are definitely accelerating everybody to be able to get to some level of benchmarks.
Right.
But most industries today, right? I mean, the ones that's trying to lead the forefront, they need to be able to have the skills that they can question the plateau of this model's performance, and they must be able to have the knowledge and understanding of the tools to be able to see at what level of cap of performance can this tool do.
The whole generative AI is built on the transformer model where attention is everything.
We are in this world where the attention layer is getting sliced. So where we are putting growth is on the attention of algorithmic capabilities systems, and we are getting sliced and removed off this attention capability.
I suppose at some point, if AGI is going to happen, then what's left? What's left in human that is differentiating us?
Learning the fundamentals of maths, algorithmic capabilities, and programming is the universal knowledge to any domain. Our kids of the generation today is making immediate judgment of their reality, and you and me are in no control about what app, what exactly that they are doing.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of AI Business Asia podcast. I am your host, Leo Jiang. Is AI a booster or is a hindrance to human intelligence? And how is AI profoundly changing the world today, yet deeply and quietly steering the direction of our future? Today, we're going to discuss how generative AI is affecting our human creativity and cognitive intelligence. And I had the pleasure to invite Dr. Ashley Fernandez, who is the Chief Data and AI Officer at Huawei, in charge of its regional AI Center of Excellence. He's a really highly regarded AI expert in the region, held a PhD in cognitive science, and also 2 patent solutions in forecasting model, time series modeling, which has been widely adopted by Huawei product line. Ashley, I understand that you're working on a number of really interesting and groundbreaking projects with some large enterprises in Singapore, and you had a really strong team of data scientists and developers doing different POCs for your clients. And the team is trying different models and a different solution. So perhaps you can just give us a bit of view of what you're doing and the key observation that you have on these projects, as well as on the people and the team that you have, either from within your team or from the client perspective.
Okay. Thanks for having me on the session. The journey has been kind of interesting, and what I mean by it is that I have been through probably 2 different seasons when it comes to AI. So one of it was in the classical machine learning world, where we used to have good data scientists, so we used to call them data scientists, building models on very common structural data sets. Those days, tools to be able to build a lot of these capabilities was very much not mainstream. There was not a lot of platforms that was accessible and useful for developers to be able to go and build AI solutions and etc. And then I think the tech industry caught up, and they made a lot of tools a bit more mainstream, accessible. And then now we're in a whole different a whole new different chapter in AI, where almost everything is an API based, everything is already preset, a lot of things can be done. And I think in that journey, having worked with so many different team members, developers, all within the space that I manage them, I do see some positives and negatives along that space. And I think one that's very evident is that I used to pursue the kind of AI architects, developers that is very, very seasonal when it comes to a full stack development. It means you can really understand nature of use cases, AI algorithms from the core, and you can understand how thing translates to the kind of computing infrastructure that's required. And then you can kind of imagine the business. The business part is where we used to say that it's the most challenging part for these guys to figure out. But if you spend long enough to be able to speak to your customers and work with various industries, you kind of understand that those things are logical. But I think in the modern world today, because these tools have become a bit more accessible, easy to use, we don't get those kind of hardcore developers of the modern way today. And I think companies, big companies like Huawei, Google, Amazon, I think the guys that are sitting on the back end is developing these guys still preserve that kind of knowledge and technical capability. But I think in a mainstream front end AI architects of today, I think a lot of them have become dependent on the tool. So I've seen some level of decline in competency and capability to be able to build and innovate at the very front. And I think this is just looking at the market, and probably it's also the transitioning of where we are in the developing world of AI, and getting it to be more accessible to everybody else.
Okay.
So yeah,
interesting. Just pick up on what you said. You mentioned there's a decay of certain intelligence among the practitioners, or among the customers.
Yeah.
Could you just unpack that a little bit? What do you mean by decline of intelligence, and specifically what you're referring to?
So let me give an overarching example first, and then you deep dive to exactly what relates to the developers today. So if you think and see in how when we want or maybe the education in the past, when you think about AI and data science, it used to be very predominantly where you have to learn a couple of skills, which I still believe that we do. Things like statistics, calculus, matrix factorization. So there's a lot of different elements of statistical and maths, and then you go into algorithmic coding and development. Then you talk about stack. So the journey of acquiring knowledge to be able to be a practitioner of AI and data science used to go down these chunks of knowledge. In the modern world today, we are learning about the stack first. Then comes the most fundamental units of performing AI kind of disciplines. So we are much more skewed towards the stack, because the stack is the one that governs how you build. And I think the market has gone down to or I think the practitioners have gone towards a skewed approach of learning the stack rather than learning the core underlying knowledge of running this kind of capabilities. So that to me, how in the past we used to learn and adopt and build AI, versus now where you learn the stack and then you try to build and adopt AI. Now let's if you break down the two different traits of what has transpired, right? The going down to the very fundamental units and principles of how AI system works gives developers the level of creativity to know what knobs and levers to be able to pull, to tweak algorithmically, and to be able to own certain capabilities to solve certain problems. Learning the stack and having lesser emphasis on focusing on the fundamentals, they've mastered the ability of the stack, but the stack becomes the depth or the constraint to be able to tweak, because you're dependent to what feature and functionality the stack permit. And a lot of the stack today, to be able to build these capabilities, have been made and designed to be ease of use for developers, so that you can basically get things out quicker.
Yeah.
Now, becoming dependent on that, there is definitely some level of decline in competency and being able to hold and tweak every single gear. So that's in essence, on principle level on how things have actually changed. Now, if you
just on that point, but isn't that what everyone and enterprise and business wants in terms of embracing AI for better productivity and efficiency, by enable the developer to be a 10x, but to be able to use certain things, and instead of you doing hard coding and writing everything, you could literally take 80% of a code somewhere else and prompting it differently and using different models to make it better. But isn't that what AI is fulfilling, and that's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you take the entire spectrum of everything that we are trying to solve with AI, and if you were to bucketize them into levels of complexity, if you the ones that's getting the most gain, it's the one that's the most obvious AI related use cases that you don't even need to think. But in every enterprise and organization, that's not the one that's tweaking the levers of innovation. That's not tweaking the levers of business having a 10x kind of engagement. It is more of getting everybody accessible to the tools to try some level of AI to improve productivity, but it's not becoming a game changer, right? It's definitely not becoming a game changer, because if you look at the entire landscape of everybody that's got these tools accessible to them, these platforms embedded within organization, we will see that, I'm becoming more AI savvy, I'm thinking about AI, I can see a glimpse of it, but you don't see the financial economics of the organization changing from 10% to 20%.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And the reason,
Anyway.
Not yet. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So it's always on the productivity element, and I see that when teams like mine go into organizations, the way that we rationalize the problem will be very different from the ones that's got tools to rationalize the problem, because you're looking at the problem from the point of what can I do from the tools, not how you would solve the problem from a fundamental unit from data, analytics, AI, and business problem. So that kind of views we have seen that has implications. I think that's for sure. But you're right that it enables organizations to be much more accessible, to be more productive, to consume AI, but not really groundbreaking AI that can change anything.
Okay, so just picking up on what you just said. So you're saying the efficiency and everything we gain through using of AI is not groundbreaking. It becomes more accessible to everybody, which doesn't necessarily generate significant return for the company, and neither it creates a competitive advantage. So are you suggesting, is that a problem with the tool not be maturing, or the model still developing, or is that still on how we using these tools and how we thinking about problems and applying AI to solve these problems?
I mean, if I think of it in a very structured use case manner, right? So let's just say if today I had, let's say I'm a head of data, I'm a head of AI, and I have a group of data engineers, data scientists that's working on a problem for a business. So let's say I'm working in a bank, I want to be able to build a credit scoring model, for example, right? And what this credit scoring model would do is that it's to be able to help me in my business, to be able to know who to be able to give different financial products and services, etc. Now, having tools like auto ML, so let's say that there's this automated ML workflows that all I got to do is click an import button and I load my data, and automatically this machine learning module goes and runs the training, and then eventually it gives you a final output, and the model is already built. And what happens in that process is that all it required for a developer to do, or an AI engineer, data scientist to be able to do, is just load the data and rationalize whether the outputs was great, right? And so that works. Or that institution never had a banking model before, and this is like almost a 0 to 1, because they never had it. Now they didn't have the competency. They're just starting it on a very initial stage, and you have an accessible tool that didn't require a lot of expertise, and I got my first machine learning model out. So that works. Now that this bank grows, over years, and they start to realize that they need to be able to tweak the model's levers, and I need to go down to parameter levels, and I need to configure it to be able to be more unique and custom fitted to my data. I need to be able to stretch this model's performance. And if we are too dependent, right, on how we set up the company, the resource, the expertise, gearing up these talented individuals and saying that, I want you to be able to wield the tools, these guys would not be able to go down to the level of depth to be able to change, tweak those capabilities to stretch the model's performance, even though you're using on the same level of data. So these tools and capabilities are definitely accelerating everybody to be able to get to some level of benchmark, so that so there's that.
Right.
But most industries today, right, I mean the ones that's trying to lead the forefront, they need to be able to have the skills that they can question the plateau of this model's performance, and they must be able to have so one is to be able to have the knowledge and understanding of the tools, to be able to see at what level of cap of performance can this tool do. And your secondary arm is to be able to say that, I'm going to go under the hood, tweak everything algorithmically so that I can maximize the performance. Now, my point that I'm trying to make is that if we become too over-reliant on the first element, you will lose the element of differentiator to be able to go down to the level of depth. So I hope I'm making a point.
100%. So it's like when the calculator was invented, right? In the old days, where you start, you do a calculation with your pencil, and now we're saying the calculator does most of calculation, where we become less mathematically intelligent. But I suppose that's progression. You want us to have ability to challenge and go under the hood to understand the fundamentals, but at the same time, not losing the speed of execution. So what do you see like with your team? I mean, I understand your team has pretty experienced data scientists and developers. Are you observing they become less hands-on, too dependent on the tools and models? What do you see in the real?
I still remember, right, when I was doing my data science program many years ago in the US, and we had to learn many different principles. So like I was saying that I still remember the first few chapters when we started the data science course was on purely on maths and stats. And then you went into algorithms, and then you went into code, and then you went into visualization and some capstone project, and so that was the journey. And I still remember when I acquired that knowledge, and then we were coming back to the industry. The industry was sourcing for, we need the data scientists that's a domain expert, right? So we need data scientists that's a domain expert. And we usually try to find them because, it's better fit because the experience on the domain and able to solve the problems better. But during that course that I was doing in US, right, I remember one of the professors mentioned one thing that, still sticks with me today, which is that learning the fundamentals of maths, algorithmic capabilities, and programming is the universal knowledge to any domain, because the data that you have in a bank and a telco, structurally in what kind of information that they possess is naturally the same. You'll still use the same fundamental principles, techniques, and if your core knowledge is strong enough, you're able to see associations and you can make good underlying transitions to be able to say, how can I solve a problem? Even though I work in a bank, I can go to a telco and I can go. So that fundamental knowledge to me is essential. So that's let me just put that out there. Now the key that I do realize today is that I mean in how I build and I try to source a lot of members in my team is that these fundamentals is essential to me. And it's the same analogy we're giving about the calculator. If the calculator to solve that problem would be useful, or it'll be much more powerful to an individual that understands exactly how to frame and solve and how to be able to use them. So for me, it's that. So I see past the, I mean, in my team, I see past the experience catalog that they usually demonstrate that, I'm certified by X, I'm certified by this tool, I'm certified by that tool. That's to me pluses on what you can do to make yourself more efficient. But the fundamental element about your knowledge about, what you understand about the fundamentals of their, like your on matrix factorization and how would that be? If you focus more on those, I think this is a real 10x engineers. And I've seen that quite evident because I have interchangeably used AI experts from banking to aviation and aviation to maps and maps to telco. It's so that professor who made that profound thing to us, they say that you are irrespective to domain because your fundamentals are strong. So I've seen that. I think I advocate for that even within my teams, and I've seen that to be quite positive in how we bring them to industries and engagement. Yeah.
Understood. So the foundation is absolutely key for them to excel on the layers above them, but the foundation is absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
And then with the tools such as ChatGPT, Copilots, which they do provide a really good way of accessing results that you're looking for. And personally, I using Perplexity even more so now, because it's not just about searching for results; it's about expanding my knowledge. So I'm quite fascinated by their metaphor of, that's where the knowledge begins by asking a question, and then they prompt you with a follow-up question that kind of expand your knowledge base.
Yeah.
So within the space of AI, like I felt a lot to do is with we don't know what we don't know. So having tool like these, AI chatbot will help us expand. So in your opinion, how reliable or how dependent should you be on these tools, given these tools were trained probably on a set of data that we can, as a human being, and our brain probably can never be able to process. And they do put a really strong guardrails of ensure they don't speak something nonsense, or they'll be citing on stuff that is factual. So there is an element of confidence that going behind, OpenAI in terms of accuracy and all that point. Would you say these are necessities for AI developers now to be able to using these models and tools to do their job? Now, you can still do your old job without a calculator, but you'll be definitely losing the battle because everybody else is using a calculator. So, so what's your point? What's your viewpoint on this from enterprise perspective and from developers perspective?
I think the first thing I'll probably want to put a point here is that there's nobody that's going to be a master in the calculator without some fundamental knowledge. So these tools, be it whether it is any form of generative AI platform that's making it accessible to knowledge and helping you reduce the search space of the problem construct and all that. So that's definitely an accelerator. But if you were to run a series of experiment, right? And what do I mean by that is that if you take somebody that's a poor performer in maths and a mid performer in maths and an advanced performer in maths, and you give them the tool, you see different proponents of how the tool gets used. Right? There's a lot of good fun. The way that you will prompt the calculator versus the way that you will prompt Perplexity or ChatGPT, whatever, would be significantly very different. And so the better knowledge equipped you are, these folks and individual would become and how would you? So maybe we have to take one more step. How would you become more knowledgeable and more equipped with fundamental knowledge? Is that there's the elements of acquiring them, going through that course construct of hands-on and materializing concepts and experimentation. I think those things are things that you should not accelerate. You should acquire them. You should and you must remember, right, the entire cognitive structure of how you understand and comprehend information, it goes down by you acquire, you need to internalize, you need to build mental models of what you understand on representation, and over time, by going through that level of comprehension, you save it as memory, and that's when you save it as memory, it internalizes you for you to make decisioning points that this is the ground truth of your reality. So that's the entire construct of how you acquire knowledge. And now, if you accelerate that journey, so let's just say, right, you accelerate that journey. Now, the way that you're acquiring knowledge now is snippets and pockets of what you understand, and you can crystallize on a principle level that you would understand that, how things would work, but you can never comprehend the real, the first principle aspects of how it's supposed to be. You can never question.
Yeah.
Now, tools like Perplexity is amazing because I myself use them. And the reason why it is that it is not an answer and an output. It opens up, right? So if you're asking it, a selective type of questions, it knows that this question branches out to so many different possibilities.
Yeah.
And you're internalizing it better. And then, so I think that the construct of how they've designed search makes it a good research-oriented tool to be able to acquire knowledge. So there's definitely a plus in how they're able to do so. Now, not everybody will be able to internalize what I've just said and be able to consume the tools the way that I'm saying. So let's say you need guidance to be able to educate what knowledge means, what education means, what you need to be able to acquire. But if has become the de facto standard of how you become and acquire knowledge, you become reliant on a tool that makes it permissible to you to what to acquire. And you lose the touch of reality of how much knowledge have you actually acquired, because you're too dependent.
True.
You're too dependent in the nature of how the feature and function are. So I'm still very old school in how I read my books and stuff like that. I still read books. Then I do an auto summary of stuff, and I think that's probably given me ways to do my own things.
Can I ask you something? So I agree with you, because the way we ingest knowledge, actually the way we process data, and ingest that data into our brain and start forming the knowledge is a process which it cannot be streamlined too much. The fact, to me, also being a concern now is in the past, people used to say, look, I don't know what is the right question to ask because I don't know enough. So we know curiosity drives innovation because we're interested in certain things and we just try to find out. The way we'll find out is we're asking questions. With tools like Perplexity, say, well, don't worry about it. I will be able to ask you or guide you to ask the right question. So saving me the effort of thinking about the question, which is in a way remove our right to curious and then to be able to expand that curiosity into intelligence and then ingest it into as a knowledge. So for me, I don't know if this is a good thing or is a bad thing. And do you know, I mean, since you study in cognitive science, at a human brain level, how the neuron works when you're giving them the shortcut or the ability to ingest knowledge too quickly, does it still create neurons and does it still transpire to something that is more long-lasting?
I mean, okay, so this is interesting, right? I think it's very good to let you see the way we internalize knowledge within our own brains. So you can think and see, right? We have 3 states in our brain. Okay, so there's 3 states of where we are in topic of knowledge in our brain, and the first state is called the conscious state. The second state is called the awareness state, and the third state is called the decisive state. So there's 3 states in how we internalize information. So if I were to ask you today, is Perplexity a great platform? So or is Google search a great platform? Now, what would you do, right? Just before you were to answer that question is that you're going to go into your knowledge bank. You're going to be able to connect different periodical information that's passed over your time, your life, and which answer you were to be able to make would be that you are in a decisive state, right? So let's just say if your answer was one of those platforms now, and you made that means you were on a decisive state. And when you were in the decisive state, you were at a conscious state many months ago, but you've gone through a series of internalizing, validating, seeing things yourself that then passed you up to an awareness state, and then you started to be a bit more aware of the requirements, the feature functionalities between these 2 platforms that eventually you came to a decisive decision to say that this is a better platform for me, right? So you went through that whole internalized journey. Yeah, okay. Now, if you think and see about imagine if you short trip how you acquire knowledge, right? Imagine when somebody is conscious about something, it's very difficult for you to make. Somebody that's conscious can never make a good internalized decision. Somebody that's decisive, right, would make decision, and it is very difficult to put somebody who's decisive to be able to question his decision because he's gone through the 3 different states together.
Already.
You know? So the only way you can basically influence somebody who's decisive is to create new information constructs that resets him back to the conscious state, that questions his decisive state to be able to move back that whole paradigm of knowledge, internalization. Now, so that's how we internalize information. Now, the key thing about this is that imagine that you're short tripping the way of how we collect information, process them, and almost everything that we do. So let's just say, let's take a bit more extreme, and where they say that, cancer can be cured by you drinking green tea. Let's say, right? Okay.
Nice thing to have.
And
let's sell some green teas, save the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and we start to understand that there's no need to research, there's no need to acquire. So when our human mind goes through a short trip or a shortcut to when that thing happens, we don't need to do research because it's evident, and I'm straight going to a decisive state of mind. What happens in over time is that because we are using the system that has given us the final answer, and that final answer is ground truth that green tea solves cancer. We get to a more decisive state quicker. So the positive is that we make a good actionable decisions quicker because the heavy lifting has been done. What do you think happens to us as a society over time?
Yeah.
What
we are 2x. Like I can see the world is going 2x. And let's just go faster and faster.
So you go faster and faster, and you become dependent on the system that possesses that information. So from a productivity and an actioning point, yes, it goes faster. But from a cognitive ability, right? We will not possess the creative aspects to question. We will not have the ability to be able to tinker around the problem, to be able to reevaluate judgment, because we're just getting that. So like you imagine sometimes when I'm just telling you this, I'm thinking, when I'm working, when I'm playing around with my kids and I tell my kids 1 + 1 is 2, right? Do you think that they internalize to understand that 1 + 1, it's two different components that sums to, or they're just remembering 1 + 1 is 2 and they have no appreciation of what 1 is, what plus is, what 1 is? They just know 1 + 1 is 2. But is that making my 2-year-old smart? Does she understand the logics between the sum?
Yeah, and make them more efficient, not necessarily more intelligent. Yeah.
Yes, and my daughter is definitely decisive that 1 + 1 is 2, because her whole life she knows 1 + 1 is 2. Yeah. But she can never internalize. She has no appreciation of that knowledge. She has, but she knows 1 + 1 is 2. She's decisive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, as you know, in China we had the system where in the primary school, after learning all the the plus and minus, we learn the multiples, and there's like a chart of 1 to 9. You just memorize everything from 1 multiplied by 1 to multiplied by 9, and it goes the entire matrix, and it will become like a little computer in our mind for this matrix 81 combinations. It does make us very efficient, I must say, but do I really care about what's the construct behind it? I guess you don't have to, because it's just how the system has been built. So bring that point to the world today. What advice would you give it to? Let's talk about, since you mentioned about your kids, because I have 2 kids, right? As you know, they become really curious about the apps that I use, and they start playing with them. And there's a lot of AI behind them. Actually, they've been playing this app. Actually, my wife never bought any app pay for any app. So recently they bought this app called Duolingo, which is a language learning app, which is amazing because it trains you by muscle memory of learning different faces, and they have this gamification that awards you with badges, and kids love badge. And there's one badge they call Midnight Workers, which you have to learn after 10 p.m. Imagine all 3 of them like motivated to learn at 10 p.m. to get this badge. I've never seen a learning application so powerful, and now I feel like, wow, I mean, this company is pretty big now. So the point I'm trying to make, and the question I'm trying to ask you is, how would you advise the generations to come? I mean, you and I are Gen X, and sorry, you're probably slightly younger than me, but let's look at Gen Y and Gen Z and our kids' generation. It's inevitable that AI is progress far faster, and it may even be a day of AGI. What would you advise them to do in this day and age?
I mean, right. I mean, speaking of kids, I still remember when so I have a son that's 2 years old now, going 3, and you see when I speak about, when I say we, I don't know whether I represent the bigger population of everybody, right? And so I'm and my lifestyle is, it's hectic. There's a lot of things that we need to do. So we lose caught up in technology to be able to see certain fine line repercussions to what's happening in the future generations of today. And what I mean by that is that I was taking a flight with the kids, and to keep my kid just quiet and composed. So you gave them the iPad, and one thing that caught my attention was that they were watching their kids show and channel and all that, but all of it, they were doing it in a couple of minutes. So I'm watching and then I'm flipping. I'm watching and I'm flipping. I'm watching and I'm flipping. And so that really caught my attention about what is it that they are looking for, right? What is it that because there's a lot of content. There's a lot of content, and what is it that is you're trying to find something that stimulates your mind? And now you see, I think the example you gave in your kid was that. So that's an app, and that one app alone got the attention. Okay, so this is a very important topic now. Right? That app got the attention, and whoever that invented the app to be able to get the attention to accelerate learning, fantastic. We don't see many times, we don't go down the level of depth to see how is that affecting their attention, because we are basing it on the aspect of, well, it's an education app. I've never seen them more engaged. This was your words, right? I never seen them more engaged. They're incentivized. What is that app doing? Oh, it's teaching them language, it's teaching them maths. Okay, fine. Yeah. But is there a different side of repercussions that occurs to them in the long run that gets them hooked to this mode of engagement? And there's a lot of different research about, today's world where the attention span kids is on way. I think it's under 2 minutes or 2 minutes to 5 minutes. So attention span is short. So think about the sum of everything now, right? Attention span of the younger generations today is short, and information is coming relatively very fast. And your brain has 3 different states: a conscious state, awareness state, and decisive state. If you sum all this together, our kids of the generation today is making immediate judgment of their reality, and you and me are in no control about what exactly that they are doing, because we are taking a macro view to say it's an education app, or they're watching a kids channel. No. We are not. We are not doing it the old-fashioned way. So think about it, right? And I've seen this, and this was also a huge part of my research, where when we read news today, the headlines tells us the story. We already made a decisive conclusion, right? Yeah. And my parents of the older generation is still going down old school newspaper, reading every single fine line. So their attentions are better. The way that they process information and correlates are much more factual, and they're correlating stuff. We would read 2 different headlines and we're making a conclusion we already know. And this is we today, when we've transitioned from the era of our parents to where we are now. And imagine the kids that's starting on that journey. So would this make them lose innovation, invention, focus, transforming knowledge? It's all about focus. It's all, there's a couple of properties that we are missing in this element of what we're talking about, transformation. It is becoming evident. And anything, so if, let's say last time, Leo, if I were to speak to you about science and technology, and your attention span and focus could be an hour. Imagine my kid can only absorb for probably 15 minutes, and after that she needs to find the next digital attention sugar that So when attention span is short, you are dependent on something to give you information quicker. When you're making attention quicker, you better hope that the technology is giving you the right information, and then you become over-reliant on the system that you can never rationalize yourself, because your focus attention is too small. So that's why this area of decline, it's so new. Yeah, it's so new, and it's touching a whole discipline of psychology and neuroscience, and that's why it will come up eventually as
a problem. I'm really concerned about that for our kids. What about us? What about at the current day and time, where you work at a Huawei, the company you work for, and the kind of service? Do you see this becoming a prominent problem as well, as much as you see with our kids and younger generation?
I mean, of course. I mean, my whole day starts by multiple things that's happening simultaneously.
Yeah.
And I think you would know.
I know what you're talking about as
And
well. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think if you can ever write a book, I think a lot of people in tech will agree that that that's kind of our lifestyle, right? So
Yeah.
if we are transitioning between issues, we are transitioning between focus, we are transitioning between elements of innovation. We're transitioning. At the same time, we are trying to absorb new knowledge and being up to date about technology and etc. I think we ourselves are, going through this immediate transition of overload. But I think one thing that's keeping us probably in a better form of sanity and how we can comprehend what to do and all that is because we didn't start off with this new change. We grew up on a whole different era, and then we can process things a bit more better, and we question things a bit more sharper. I think that's just our but I don't think the our generation is the one to fear. It's the one that you're
Yeah.
talking about. It's the kids, our kids, right?
Yeah.
How are they going to be able to do? Like I was talking to my wife, a few weeks ago, and I was saying that we're going to send her to school. I'm not going to give her a phone until she's like what 12,
Yeah.
15.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and then my
Same.
wife was saying that when she's going to be an alien in school, so your social pressure,
Yeah.
being not engaged. So I think it's a societal problem that we're going to. And right now we're talking about guardrails and guidelines about models explainability. We don't have guidelines and guardrails to talk about our cognitive perseverance, about how do we protect this element. These things
Mm-hmm.
matter more, but like I said, because it's still very early, we've only very few research papers.
Mm.
You can already go in and search for papers on decline in attention and etc. in the whole digital world. And
Mm.
now with new large models and stuff, they're already publishing papers of research that's
Mm.
emerging. These things will become a bit more mainstream. But we became
Mm.
too hooked because the industry, the economy is dependent on them, and everybody is over-relying on it. How would you
Mm.
reverse this aspect of?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, the whole generative AI is built on the transformer model where attention is everything.
Yeah.
Right? He's saying, I mean,
Think about it.
probably,
Yeah.
think about this. So I'll probably link
Yeah.
to the end of this episode now. Like, if attention is everything, where AI is fighting against systematically, which the billions of data being fed into it, probably process all the knowledge that we ever as a human being produced. I suppose at some point, if AGI is going to happen, then what's left? What's left in human that is differentiating us and holding our
Yeah.
own identity against AI?
Yeah. I mean, this question comes out all the time, right?
Yeah.
And I have a radical different viewpoint. It's radical, but I think it's a bit logical in the sense that what do you call this? An AGI entity becomes available, so that's one. And then we're talking about this thing will be taking over, what we do because it can think so profoundly different. I think, right, that angle would just literally mean that if you look at the rate of how we acquire knowledge, how we're processing knowledge, and what we can rationalize about knowledge, I think it is just we gave up the ability to inquire knowledge the way that we are training our networks. And as like what you said, right? Attention is all you need. And our attention layer, you see, these models, attention mechanism is what that makes these models computing infrastructure so heavy. We are in this world where the attention layer is getting sliced. So where we are putting growth is on the attention of this, this algorithmic capabilities systems, and we are getting sliced and removed of this attention capability. Now, when we talk about this in like what I think it'll just be that we will not be. It's not that we will not be able to, because there's a lot of things about the benefits and all that, but I just think that we will not have, at certain point to the very extreme is that maybe we will not have enough knowledge to be able to see things about and question whether what's right and what's there left to do, and how is AGI going to become sentient that they because we will not have that knowledge. Gone would we be? I mean, this is just me saying it. Like gone would be the Leos and everybody's in the world that can question to say that no, I think I can see because I can question. But yeah, but I think the challenge is definitely real because we will not have enough internalized knowledge to be able to comprehend how things would be, because everything has been fast-tracked anyway.
Okay, well, great. Thanks a lot, Ashley. I mean, it's been great having you, talking to us about cognitive science and how it's affecting us as human beings as well as generations and at a company level. I understand you're working on some groundbreaking project like a one map GPT. That's something I would love to have another session with you. Schedule. But thanks again for sharing the insights, and it's been a real pleasure to have you to join our first episode of AI Business Asia. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.